Dr. Mark Jangizi here with your Science Moment. Today I'm going to talk about tobacco companies and vaccine companies during the COVID era. Now, let's just think about the tobacco companies, which have been raked over the coals for 30, 40, 50 years. And I just want to just cover a few of the basics about what tobacco companies have done and haven't done. Now, I don't recall a tobacco company forcing anybody to smoke. Do you remember them coercing anybody to smoke? Do you remember them telling you that if you don't smoke, you can't keep your job? Do you ever remember being told that if you don't smoke, you can't go into certain kinds of establishments or shop here or go to this restaurant or go to this event or this gallery? I don't recall tobacco companies doing that. Do you recall tobacco companies putting pressure on, or working with, let's just say, colluding with the federal and state governments to ensure that you can't work, you can't go to school unless you smoke, or you can't have a job if you smoke? And it's colluding with the federal government. These are forced by the federal government, forcing you to smoke in order to regain normal access to society and schools and businesses and so forth. I don't remember the tobacco companies ever doing any of that. Now, I also don't remember tobacco companies hiding, per se, the damages. I mean, I'm sure they hid some of the damages, but on every box that I saw in very large, bold-face, all caps letters, sometimes covering much of the entire container, as well as sort of skull and bones, said this is dangerous to your health. Smoking is seriously effing dangerous to your health. It said this all over it, right? There were no illusions. It didn't say exactly, it's just this dangerous. It's, gonna this much increase in heart disease. No, if anything, it just exaggerated the degree of danger. People live, it doesn't say you can get this much joy, but there's this much. No, it just said this is super dangerous, right? You were informed if you smoked. I don't recall it being the case that if somebody criticized smoking and said, hey, smoking is dangerous, that you were censored and never allowed to be part of the public square, or that there was cancel culture going after you for saying that smoking is bad for you. Right? I don't remember the federal government cracking down on people and institutions and foundations which said that smoking is bad for you. I don't remember any of that happening. If that had happened, of course, then people who smoked, if somehow they hadn't read the label, maybe you could argue that they weren't informed, because there had been censorship all over the place, coordinated either by tobacco companies or by the federal government, ensuring that you didn't get the message that smoking was dangerous. I don't remember any of that happening. So when you smoked, and when you smoke today, you have informed consent. You're informed because the information is there that it's dangerous. There's been no censorship making it so that you don't get that information, and you are consenting. There's no implicit threat or explicit threat that you've got to do it or that or this. No, right? It has full informed consent. Now you can say, hey, but Mark, even if there are dangers to this particular medication you're not mentioning, they're still much safer than potentially the risks of smoking. Now, I don't even want to get into the numbers. It doesn't matter. Let's presume, for the sake of argument, that smoking is 1,000 times, 10,000 times, whatever you want to say. It doesn't really matter. More dangerous than this particular medication in terms of the side effects. The overall benefits, let's presume, of this medication is actually good. It actually lowers the particular illness, and also doesn't have adverse side effects that outweigh that. And so overall, the risks are still relatively low compared to smoking. It doesn't matter. The key ethical issue is whether you had informed consent. Right? You can do informed consent and jump out of an airplane, right? Take on huge risks, rock climbing. Every time I go on a motorcycle, there are risks. I am engaged in behavior that is dangerous, as we all are in different facets of our lives. But what matters is that we were informed and we consented. We did it consensually. Right? This was completely ignored. Right? The medication, when it was tested, showed that it had benefits in terms of this particular respiratory virus. But they did not test for all-cause mortality. It wasn't, in fact, tested for. It would need much larger, much longer studies. In fact, in terms of all-cause mortality, the medication group happened to do worse. It was not significant. It doesn't really matter because it wasn't designed for that. It happened to do slightly worse than the control group. To actually study all-cause mortality would have been a much longer study. So nobody was in fact informed. It could turn out to be, if everything is great about the medication that everybody wanted to be, well, no one really knows that. No one was informed that in fact we don't know that. To the extent that we know it now, it's going to come after the fact through years of post hoc trying to tease things out. It wasn't informed. And in fact, so that wasn't told to people. All of the possible adverse side effects were not told to people. There was a disinformation campaign about how great it was and how dangerous the virus was. That means people weren't informed. There was replete censorship all over the place, which we've talked about in a recent video, ensuring that people were not informed. And in fact, of course, it was coerced. You had no consent. Take this or you lose your job. Take this or you can't go to university. Take this or you can't participate in the normal things in society is not a free choice. These are paradigm examples of coercion. One suite of companies, these vaccine companies during the last 2 years, versus tobacco companies, there is no question which of these enterprises, including their collusion with the government, the pairs of these things, which one is more ethical and which one is less. Tobacco companies are 1,000 times more ethical on the basis of simple, normal ethical understanding that we always had pre-2020. And that was your science moment. If you're interested in free expression, check out the Free Expression Research Institute, freex.group, and check out Dr. Tim Barber and my new book, Highly Censored, Super Dangerous, Expressly Human. Get it at Amazon and other evil places. That was your science moment.